guys. A lot of people have been asking me questions about my newts. Okay, and I'll just go over some things off the top of my head. First of all, I think water is the most important thing. What kind of water are you using? If you're using tap water, then you know it's full of chlorine and fluoride and magnesium and things that won't let your plant food break down properly inside and to make it really accessible to the plant. So, I mean, if you're not using dechlor or reverse osmosis filter or something, then that's your first mistake. Number two, the food. Now, I prefer canna just because canna is specifically designed for marijuana. Now, in the United States, no company can make something specifically for marijuana because if they did, then they couldn't file federal taxes against their overhead on their company. So everything they do is for tomatoes, okay? And they add a bunch of stuff that you don't need because marijuana is not a fruit of a seed-bearing fruit or any of that. So there's 10 or 11 basic elements that you need for marijuana. Look it up yourself. Don't take my word for it. There's what, three or four main nutrients, three or four macronutrients, and I think two or three macro and micronutrients. So if you look them up, you can find out what they are. And you just got to get them in balance, man. And now the microbial brews and the flushes and the root drenches, I use those here and there, but it's all a matter of how much and when. And there's two different growers. There's the grower that knows exactly what he's feeding his plant, and he doesn't have to, like me, when I feed my plants, they drain. I drain at least a third of what I feed out of the bottom. So, but if you're right on, if you hit the nail on the head, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't need anything to drain. I worry about drainage just because I know a plant sometimes gives off what it doesn't need and releases it back into the soil. Therefore, I want to leach it out. So, and sometimes if you flush, you can stop the microbial process that's going on in the soil and reset the whole thing. So if you flush, don't flush with just water. Get a microbial brew or something like that. Something that'll keep the enzymes in the soil and keep your whole process going on. I like to use organic foods because they're readily available for the plant. The plant can absorb them right away. The problem with the chemical-based foods is they have to break down in the soil first. They have to go through a metabolizing process and break down before the plant is able to use it. So that's my opinion on the foods. And when you mix, don't assume that this will work and that'll work. When you read and add the percentages so you know what you're giving your plant. So you know nitrogen, potassium, so you know exactly what it's getting and when it's getting it. You need to know exactly when to give the plant what it needs, how much to give it, and each plant is different. Each strain is different. It could take you 4 or 5 crops before you even start to dial a strain in. That's just the way it is, So, and the best thing to do, is get 3 or 4 from your friend. Make sure they're clean, quarantine them, take care of that. And then once you do that, throw them into the room. Now, whichever one grows the best, with little effort, obviously that's the one you want to take and then start, tweaking it here and there to see if you can make it better or worse. So remember how you mix your stuff can also change the results. And what process do you mix? Do you do water first, then this, then that, then this, then that? Or if you mix it up properly, you have to check it each step of the way too. So, and there's several different combinations that you could put together because one chemical might not let another chemical break down properly. So this is all part of taking all those factors into an account again. And most people are giving their stuff too much food. I guarantee you. Because most setups I see on YouTube don't have enough light. Don't have enough light. Don't have enough light. Don't have enough light. I mean, that's one thing that you cannot give a plant too much of is light. You can give it too much food, too much CO2, too much everything else, but you can't give it too much light. So if you're going to add something to your room, I would always add a light and cut back on the food and just see what happens. Most of the time, you'd be amazed if you just add a light and cut back on the food a little bit. You'd be surprised. So make sure you got your pH meter, your ppm meter, your EC or your TDS. These are all very important. Make sure you get one with a removable diode, though, so that when the diode goes bad, you can go buy another one. You don't want to go buy 2 or 3 like I did and then realize, once that diode goes bad, on certain ones, they're not replaceable. You got to throw the whole thing away. So make sure you get meters with removable diodes or removable whatever so you can just replace those later. Now, the pH soil tester, too. I like to test, and don't buy a cheap $5 one. Buy a $40, pH tester for your soil. And go around and check your soil from time to time and make sure so you can see, but remember, each strain is different. So you have to dial in each strain, so, and What else? Now, in my experience, indicas don't seem to take a lot of food. You know, maybe I'm wrong. I'm just saying, in my experience, my indicas don't seem to like a lot of food. My sativas always seem to handle a bunch of food, no problem. So I'm not sure if that's just the way it is, or if that's just, you know. And your food again is relevant to the light and all the other factors. Like I said before, you know, marijuana is going to grow according to its least available resource. You know, so whatever it's getting the least amount is, that's what's going to dictate how good it's going to come out. That's just the way it is. So, and remember, if you're going to give your stuff food, always start at 50%. Always start at 50%. You know, and if in case you don't know, on the bottle, when you buy a bottle of food, and it says 10, 20, 10, that 10 is the minimum amount. That's it. That's all they're required to put. It could actually be 14, you know, I'm serious. Check it, ask anyone, you know. That's what the food companies are required to do. They're required to put the minimum amount on the bottle. There might be more than that in there, you know, because of the way it sits, if you don't shake it up. And most of them, the numbers are actually higher than what they said. They're only required to put the minimum amount on the bottle. So don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself, man. This is stuff that I've learned along the way. So I'm going to go over, I'm going to upload more videos later, one about ventilation, one about CO2, one about, you know. So if you guys got any questions, keep them coming, man. You know, I don't know it all. I just know what I know. So if I can help, man, no problem. You guys keep it coming.